of our series, Merry Christmas to Me. And I want to hear some of your strongest Christmas opinions, okay? So Christmas cookies, sugar, or chocolate chip? When it comes to Christmas ornaments or decor, homemade or store-bought? Snow on Christmas, want it or hate it? And Christmas trees, real or fake? Now, whether you prefer real or fake trees, there's nothing like a beautifully decorated tree to really get you in the Christmas spirit. And we spend a ton of time and care and energy and money to make these trees beautiful for just a few weeks. And after that, the trees get tossed back into the nearest attic or a bonfire or the basement. And Christmas trees are just one of the things that we put energy, time, and affection into, but the benefits only last for a short time. The same is true for our Christmas dinners, our Christmas presents, Christmas cookies, our Christmas spirit. And even though the Christmas season doesn't last forever, there are plenty of things that can last long after the holidays end, like the memories, the relationships, the gratitude. And this is even true when it comes to Jesus. For many of us, the only time each year that we think about the significance of Jesus' birth is Christmas time. We might thank God for the miracle that was Jesus' birth while it's fresh on our minds, but then spend the rest of the year forgetting just how incredible it is that our Creator chose to humble himself, come to earth, and rescue us. So today, I want to challenge us to find new ways to thank God for the miracle of Jesus' birth, not just today, but long after the Christmas music fades. Now, if you've heard the story of the birth of Jesus, you're probably familiar with the wise men. You might even have a nativity set in your house that has them in it. And the truth is that we don't know much about these wise men, but we do know a few things. They followed a star in the sky, in the night sky, to find baby Jesus. They brought him gifts that carried a lot of significance. And I don't know, you might feel this pressure now, if not you will someday, to buy someone like the perfect gift. And it's hard enough to find the perfect gift to give when that person in your life is your mom or a friend or your crush or your dog, I don't know. But imagine how hard it would be to find a gift for a baby who would someday become the most important person to ever live. If Jesus were born today and money wasn't a concern, what would you give him? Think about that. Now, we're going to talk about the gifts in just a minute, but first, let's talk about who these wise men really were. And here's what we read in Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 through 7. It says, Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem. He called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of teachers of religious law, and asked, "Where is the Messiah supposed to be born?" "In Bethlehem in Judea," they said, "for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not least among the ruling cities of Judah. For a ruler will come from you who will be the shepherd for my people Israel." Then Herod called for a private meeting with the wise men, and he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. Now, since there are so few verses about the Magi, there are a lot of things we don't know about them. We don't know How many of them actually visited Jesus? Probably more than 3. We don't know their names or how old they were or exactly where they came from. But here's what we do know. We do know that they were scholars. And based on their studies and their readings, they understood that a king was going to be born and that he would change everything. And they followed a star and traveled hundreds, if not thousands of miles just to see and worship him. They brought gifts with them, really expensive gifts. These men were important, wealthy, and intelligent. But when they learned this new king had been born, they knew they had to go and honor him. Unlike King Herod, the wise men responded to this new king with worship. So, how did these wise men worship Jesus? And here's what we read in Matthew chapter 2, verse 11 and 12. It says, "They entered the house and saw the child with his mother, Mary. And they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasure chests and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod." When the wise men finally found Jesus, they honored him by giving gifts that meant something significant. These wise men understood that this child they were visiting was special. So the gifts they brought him were designed to show him praise and glory and worship. All of the gifts the wise men gave to Jesus were precious and expensive, but they were symbolic too. Gold is an extremely valuable, precious metal. It represented power and royalty. It wasn't a gift you'd give to just anyone, but gold was a gift for a king. Next was frankincense. Frankincense is a resin taken from specific trees. It was often used to make perfumes, and it has medicinal uses as well. But even more importantly, this was often seen as a gift you would give to deity. In other words, frankincense was a gift for a god, the only God in Jesus' case. And the last is myrrh. Myrrh, like frankincense, is a resin taken from a different plant. And it was commonly used in perfumes, but this gift was significant because it was often used to prepare a body for burial. And it's a strange gift for a baby because myrrh was a gift that symbolized death. These gifts were more than just gifts. They expressed the wise men's trust in who Jesus was. They were an act of worship. The wise men set an example for us. We may not be super rich, but as long as we have breath, we can give Jesus our worship. See, on the first Christmas, the wise men gave their worship. This Christmas, how can you and I do the same? How can we follow the example of the wise men? What does it really mean to worship Jesus today? See, worship is what happens anytime we give honor to Jesus with our words or actions. It's about thanking him for what he has done and praising him for who he is. So how do we worship? While it may seem more difficult to bring worship to Jesus today, we actually have an advantage that the wise men didn't have. We find in the pages of Scripture the things that bring God honor and glory. So we worship with our words. When most people think about the word worship, they think about music, right? Praising God through music is definitely a part of worship, but there's more to it than that. See, we can worship Jesus with our words, yes, by singing praise to him, but we can also do it by telling him thank you, by telling him how incredible he is, by telling others about him, Sharing our faith story, like we talked about last week, with others can be an act of worship. We can also worship with our actions. The wise men worshiped Jesus with their actions by giving him these physical gifts and bowing down before him. And we can worship him through our actions by maybe letting go of some of the things that keep us far from him, by making time for him, by choosing to obey him, by loving and serving the people that he loves, which, newsflash, is everyone. And our community is full of people who need help, love, or a friend, especially right now. See, when we use our actions and our words to give honor to Jesus, we follow the example of the wise men that they set by worshiping him. You don't have to be rich, influential, or important in order to give Jesus a gift worth giving. On the first Christmas, the wise men gave their worship. This Christmas, how can you and I do the same with our words and with our actions?